Okay, in this video, I want to talk about putting a trigonometric function in what we call standard form. So here is standard form. Hopefully at this point you've seen this before. Y equals a times sine b times x minus h plus k. The same form works for cosine and tangent and that, and those three trig equations. So a we know is the amplitude, b is that value that is related to the period. And in order to get an accurate, in order to get the period, you need to have the equation in standard form, which means it has to look just like this. Now, in the examples that I'm going to go through, they look like they're in standard form, mostly, but not quite. So let me show you what I mean with an example here. So here we have -4 sine 4x minus 12, and this is not quite in standard form. It needs to look like this: a b value, some number, times x minus h, the quantity x minus h. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take whatever number is in front of the x, which kind of looks like it's the b value. It is the b value actually. And we're going to factor that out of both terms here. So it will look like this: y equals -4 sine. Then we're going to factor the 4 out. Okay, so that will leave us with 4 times x minus, and if I take a 4 out of 12, in other words, if I divide a 4 out, I'm going to end up with 3 here. Okay, so that's standard form, and notice how that is different than this. If you just looked at this and you thought, what is b and what is h, you might think, oh, b is 4 and h is negative, or is 12. No, it's not, right? This is in standard form. We can see that the horizontal shift is actually 3 units. Okay, so that is how you put that in standard form. Again, noticing that this is actually the b value, but this is the horizontal shift. This is 3. Let's do one that's a little bit more complicated. So in this one, again, we have this equation. It looks like it's mostly in standard form, cosine pi x minus 3, but we check, we see that it is not quite in standard form. It doesn't look like this. So what we need to do is find the b value, which is pi, and we need to factor that out of both terms here. Now, lots of times students will stumble on how to factor a pi out of this. Well, when we factored a 4 out of 12, that's the same as dividing a 4 out of 12. Well, if I'm going to do that here, I'll get this: pi times x minus, if I divide a pi out of 3, I'm just going to write this: 3 over pi. Okay. That is equivalent, all right? And you can always check your answer on this to make sure that you did the factoring correctly by redistributing the pi. So if you went pi times x, that would give you pi x. And if you went pi times 3 over pi, you would get 3 pi over pi, which is just 3. So that would work out to be the original function. And now this is standard form, where you could write that b was equal to pi and that h is equal to 3 over pi for your horizontal shift. All right, so this is an important thing. It doesn't come up that often. Lots of times you'll get the equations in standard form, but if you don't, then you've got to do this operation so that you get it in standard form.